Now, I want us to discuss the difference between anxiety disorder and depression disorder. And before anxiety now graduates, remember, to become depression, it has to, there's a graduation ceremony that happens. Now, that graduation is called the co-occurring disorders. Now, what are co-occurring disorders? Co-occurring disorders, look at it like this, in a very simplistic, simplified way. It's like you have 50% anxiety and you have 50% depression. So that anxiety is now graduating, moving from anxiety with 100%, now 50-50 is called co-occurring disorders, because it's co-occurring together. Anxiety and depression is occurring together. And now when it's fully now mature, this is now full-on depression. So let's look at the difference between anxiety and depression.
Okay.
Number one, let's talk about the difference between the symptoms. So when it comes to anxiety, you're actually worried about the future. There's a lot of worry. You are really concerned. Your heart is palpitating, beating very fast.
You're worried about what's going to happen next.
Exactly. You're sweating too much. You're actually having difficulty breathing because you're just pacing up and down. You're like peeping through the window, just waiting for something to happen. Now, that is anxiety disorder. On this other side of depression. Now, depression is actually characterized by a feeling of sadness and hopelessness. Like you feel like you have lost all hope and interest in doing everything. You are just bored. There's nothing, no activity that interests you. There's no going anywhere for a trip or any activity that will just get nothing. You are depressed. But when you're anxious, you are up and down, looking fidgety and all that. Let's talk about the duration, the difference between anxiety and depression. The duration, how long do these things last? Now, anxiety, it's short-lived.
Okay.
It comes in waves. It just reminds me of ghrelin. Ghrelin in the stomach, and when you're hungry, hunger strikes you in waves. It doesn't just come, Ivo. No. When you're hungry, you feel like your stomach is actually just ripping apart. Like it's cutting, like some needles are just cutting, or just some razors cutting through your stomach. It becomes so painful. It's like acidic. You feel like it is indeed an acid. It's called ghrelin in your stomach. And it hits you in waves. Hunger doesn't just come like that. It So anxiety as well comes in waves like ghrelin. So you fidget, you wake up, you peep through the window, you look out, you nini, and then you sit down. Unanipata. That is anxiety. What about depression? Now, depression is, in terms of duration, depression is a long-lived. It's the span of duration of depression is longer.
It doesn't come in bits.
It's
there.
It builds up and becomes huge. Let's talk about the mood, the difference between anxiety and depression. What is the mood of an anxious person, someone who has an anxiety disorder? Now, the person who has anxiety disorder, you'll notice that this person has a lot of worry. This person is very nervous all the time. The person has a lot of fear and is always looking out and always just worried, concerned.
Something is
going to happen. Just something wrong is going to happen.
That need to be alert.
That is the mood of this person. Now, what about somebody who's depressed? Now, when this other person who's anxious is just scared of what's going to happen, on this other side, the person who's depressed is actually sad and hopeless.
I don't care. Whatever happens.
Whatever happens. What about their mind? What is going through their mind? What is their thinking pattern or their thinking side? Now, during anxiety, the person who is actually anxious and has anxiety. The person who has anxiety disorder. The person who has anxiety disorder actually has a bit more catastrophic and pessimistic way of looking at things. Because you're expecting something to happen in the future, but you're just expecting it to fail. It won't happen. No, I just applied for that job,
but not just it.
We never get.
I know,
how can they take me?
I've never been called.
I've never been called. So that's you're anxious. You're waiting for that call, but you're pessimistic. You're really there's a bit of hope, but if it happens, you'll be shocked.
You'll be happy, but shocked.
Yeah. But there's hope of it happening.
But if it doesn't happen, you won't be
You get me?
surprised. Yeah.
What about someone who's depressed? Now, when this person is pessimistic on this other side, the person who's depressed is actually more negative.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Whatever happens.
And thinking more inwardly. The person who's anxious is waiting for something to happen, meaning they are relying on someone else.
Yeah.
So the mindset of someone who's anxious is pegged on someone. And that's why I was saying Liza was anxious because his mind was pegged on Chiloba's mind.
Yeah.
I have told Chiloba on the video in the morning that you are my number one.
So why am I not your number one?
I'm anxious to know where if I ask Chiloba, will he also say I'm number
his number
one?
one, yeah.
And when he didn't say, I asked, what about me?
Yeah, what about me?
Are you getting? So an anxious person looks at events that are in the future and looks on an outward look. So pegged on things that are outward. Depression is pegged on things that are inside. You beat yourself too much. You think about it. I am not worth it. I'm
worthless.
Ugly. I am worthless. How can I stand in front of people? How can I walk? How this shame.
They hate me.
They hate me. Everyone will see that I'm pregnant. Everyone will see that I am now HIV positive. How can I do this?
Yeah.
Everyone will see that I did an abortion.
Yeah.
How will the church take me? How will my parents? I have disappointed my family.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who came back home pregnant. How? Wow.
How?
I squandered everything. I wasted my parents' school fees in school because I got expelled when I was just a fourth year. After all they had paid.
Yeah.
So, you see, it's an inward look.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the mindset and the thinking of this two, when it comes to depression and anxiety, you know the difference. Let's talk about the energy levels.
Okay.
How do people who are anxious and people who are depressed behave? When it comes to anxiety, you have energy. You too much noradrenaline and norepinephrine just flowing through your system. It's too much.
Yeah.
Now, what about somebody who is depressed? How are the energy levels? Now, this person, most likely their energy is very low. They are very tired and fatigued. You're thinking a lot.
They're not
You
energetic.
cannot walk. You don't have energy. You've spent all the energy trying to block the mental wall, to hold the mental wall.
It's breaking down.
It's breaking down, but you are holding it. You're hodling it so that it doesn't fall. So all the energy is there. You don't have energy to walk. You're seated on your couch, sleeping on your bed, wherever, on your mat, on the floor, wherever you are.
Yeah.
What about the sleeping patterns? What are the difference between the sleeping patterns of someone who's anxious and someone who's depressed? So somebody who's anxious, chances are high you're going to be suffering from insomnia. So that is one very big thing. You can't say you're depressed and you can't sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
As a matter of fact,
It's like
people love sleeping.
It's like saying you got a sunburn at night.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. If you are lacking sleep, if you have insomnia, if your sleeping patterns are bad, it's because you have an anxiety disorder. It is not depression. Let's get it right.
Depression actually, I think, makes you
You get
sleep.
now. On this other hand, where I was getting when it comes to depression, now the depression, since you're mentally fatigued, you are boggled, you are tired. You will
and
find
you have no energy.
that people who are excessively depressed will stay excessively in bed and they will sleep the most. If you're extremely stressed, you will say, I do not want to face this world. I'm ashamed of this world. I'm ashamed. I just want to cover myself under the blanket and hope the world ends.
Yeah, and sleep. Because if I sleep, I forget
and
about
when I wake
everything.
up, I hope everything will have ended. Or when you wake up and find the stress, you cover yourself again in the blanket.
Yeah, you go
sleep.
back.
That is the difference between depression and anxiety. Last but not least, let's talk about how these two things interfere with your day-to-day life. How does anxiety and how does depression affect
Interfere.
you? Now, when it comes to anxiety will make you a professional procrastinator.
You procrastinate.
You will graduate with honors in the school and university of procrastination.
Procrastinating, yeah.
Why? You're afraid of what's going to happen. You're anxious. If I get out, I'll just be hit by a car.
You're afraid of taking that step.
I will. If I get on that plane, it will crash.
That's my mother.
If I get my money out of the bank and invest in this business, I will be
fail.
scammed.
It will
will fail. So you're just there.
Yeah. If I start the business, it will fail. I cannot.
Thank you. So when it comes to anxiety and how it interferes with your day-to-day patterns, it makes you a procrastinator. Business will not move, relationship, meetings will not happen because you will push things and try to do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
You see, you will push. You're too anxious.
Try to dodge.
Yes, you will avoid a lot of things because you do not want to be caught in a place whereby you will die.
Yeah, you don't want.
Death is what you fear.
Yeah, whether it's mostly death.
Yes, and that's why most anxious people who are suffering from anxiety disorder, tend to run to houses of faith.
Faith, yeah, because promises you some good stuff.
Yes. What about depression on this other side? How does it affect your day-to-day life? Now, when it comes to depression, you will find that unlike anxiety, where you can push things, you are procrastinating, but remember, you are still doing.
Yeah, you're
You're anxious, but you're still going to work. So you're not delivering your work, but you're still at work.
You're still at work, yeah.
So you're fumbling at work because you're too anxious. You don't want to take risks. You don't want to take responsibilities in. So you won't even get promotions because you don't want to be put in a situation where things fall and you will be asked what happened and you don't want to take ownership.
Yeah.
Or to talk about
you
it.
Want to be responsible.
You don't want to be responsible, but you are anxious. You have an anxiety disorder. Now, when it comes to depression on this other side of the spectrum, now depression, it makes you become extremely less motivated to do anything. You have no pleasure whatsoever. So you will not do it. You've lost hope.
Yeah.
Chances are high, if you're depressed, hata hiyo kazi hautaenda, screw it. I quit. If you're still working and you say you're depressed, you're not depressed. You have an anxiety disorder.
You have anxiety.
If it graduates to depression, you will not be there.
You will stay in your bed.
Asante. You cannot be in a relationship with someone and say you're depressed. You have an anxiety disorder. When it gets to depression, you cut it off because you've lost hope. This relationship is going nowhere.
Yeah.
When you have anxiety disorder, you're still clinging on to a bit of hope. You're pessimistic about relationship. You know this relationship is not going anywhere. Yeah. But I'm still clinging on to this relationship because you see, the thing is good.
It's good.
For sure was very well. You understand? But once I get another Getamori that knows how to go on better, who knows how to fulfill and jazz at the pochi la biashara.
Of course.
Yes, I will move. I'll now become depressed and cut you off.
Yeah.
So the point at which you cut someone off and end a relation, it's in and depressed. No hope, point of no return. It's done and dusted. But when you're still having an anxiety disorder, remember, still have hopes. You're pessimistic, but there's still a bit of... So that's the difference between anxiety and depression. And before, now, anxiety becomes depression. Remember, there's a middle ground where you have kind of like 50% anxiety and 50% depression. Now, at that point, that disorder is called the co-occurring disorder because both anxiety and depression disorders are occurring concurrently together.
Yeah.
So it's called the co-occurring disorder.